Hello and welcome to Protect Ukraine Now YouTube channel. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. Of course, this is the third holiday season, not particularly cheerful for Ukrainians. The civilians are constantly terrorized by missiles and drone attacks. Energy and other infrastructure is severely damaged. Hundreds of thousands are left without heat and power. Many have lost their lives or loved ones. But holidays are not only a time to celebrate, but also a time to reflect. In retrospect, Protect Ukraine Now started in July of 2022 because our team knew Ukraine is not getting the weapons it needs to successfully defend against the aggressor. By summer, fall of 2022, we could see this strategy where the administration were going to continue with modest aid flow to keep Ukraine afloat, but absolutely not enough for any chance of reaching objectives announced by Ukraine, verbally supported by the administration, and anticipated by the American public supporting Ukraine. In other words, there was no way Ukraine could win with weapons it was provided with. We also have seen a combination of announcements, media articles, and overly optimistic broadcasts by pro-Ukraine bloggers that collectively created an impression that Ukraine is getting plenty of weapons and support to do the job. This was not true. We knew that. We knew that because we were analyzing the actual military aid flow to Ukraine. All that data is still up on protectukrainenow.org for your consideration. But looking back, our goal was to bring awareness to the American public so they know the real numbers. Remember, at the beginning of the full-scale invasion, most Americans supported Ukraine and they trusted the US government to act in line with their will, the will of the people. We were operating on a belief that in free societies where the government is for the people and not the other way around, it is expected that we hold our elected officials accountable. This is not mutiny or revolt. This is by design. There is no other way. Imagine you ask your kid to do dishes before you leave the house, only to return to a sink full of dirty plates. And your kid is cheerfully reporting that the job is done. You look at the dirty sink and say, yeah, that is great. Thank you for your support and staying on top of chores for as long as it takes. With that sort of attitude, do you think you will ever get your kid to do dishes the right way? If you don't care about them being accountable for the assignment, why would they? Why would they care about getting the job done the right way? Why would Biden or Trump or Sullivan or Blinken or any other politician care about Ukraine or stopping aggressors like Putin more than you do? You need to speak up. All of us need to be doing that. Folks, Protect Ukraine Now, just like many other pro-Ukraine advocacy organizations, exists for one and only one reason: get you involved. For 2.5 years, Protect Ukraine Now exists to get the American public to speak for Ukraine and connect together the security interests of the United States with stopping aggressors like Russia. The data we collect and post on our website is there to substantiate our position and help you with your own advocacy. During the past almost 3 years of advocating for Ukraine, I personally have met hundreds of wonderful people who every day work to help Ukraine. Hundreds, but not thousands, not hundreds of thousands. Even with these small numbers, we have accomplished a lot. Now, advocacy is always a team effort. There is no single nationwide achievement that Protect Ukraine Now or another organization can take credit for. At least none that I can think of. But here's what US advocates have done working together. We have maintained support for Ukraine in Congress. The US senators and representatives are there to represent the interests of their constituents. A constituent is any person who resides in the state or district of a particular member of Congress. I personally took part in dozens of meetings, both in person and online, with various senators, representatives, and their legislative aides. And so did hundreds of other advocates for Ukraine. We asked them to support numerous legislations for Ukraine. The most significant one was the latest supplemental bill for Ukraine that passed in April of this year. I believe everyone remembers how much effort it took for that legislation to pass. And I'm happy that we were a part of it. Yes, we heavily criticized that legislation as disastrous and insufficient. A year later, I still maintain that position. We had a chance to improve it if we had enough public support. But at that time, Protect Ukraine Now did not get the support we needed, and the bill passed the way it was written. But this is still an achievement because something is better than nothing, and Ukraine continues to receive weapons from the US thanks to that funding. Next, advocates for Ukraine maintain support for Ukraine from the White House administration. Yes, this support is ridiculously low. At Protect Ukraine Now, we criticize it for nearly 3 years now. But without our collective advocacy and collective criticism, this support would be much smaller, if any at all. Another significant achievement worth mentioning is the $6 billion in presidential drawdown authority that we saved from expiration back in September. The PDA authority from the April supplemental was set only through the end of a fiscal year that in the United States ends on September 30th. At Protect Ukraine Now, we had an insight that this authority will be permitted to expire. We have started a letter campaign aimed at the White House and Congress. Many of you have participated in that campaign, for which is a special thanks. And the campaign was also supported by other organizations we regularly network with. I'm confident this issue was also independently picked up by other organizations and media. Again, collectively, we created enough noise for the White House to actually address the issue and take the necessary steps, specifically notify the Congress of the intent to actually use the remaining PDA authority. Folks, advocacy is a numbers game. Looking back, what we haven't done enough is getting more of you on board speaking for Ukraine. That's definitely a regret on my part, but chips fell where they did. And finishing up this retrospective, here's what we have as of today. Ukraine slowly but surely is working towards its own weapons production. This is great, but significantly more reforms are needed over there before Ukraine can break free from dependence on the aid from partners. And this is absolutely a must because the United States and the rest of NATO came out as unwilling to provide Ukraine with resources it needs to fight off Russia. Furthermore, this war has exposed NATO as unprepared and unable to fight conventional wars. Germany, France, UK, and the US are unable to meet production capabilities needed for a significant size war. Their armed forces are understaffed. In the next video, we're going to talk about the perspective and what Protect Ukraine Now plans on working on going forward. For the time being, I want to remind everyone who is still watching that Protect Ukraine Now is running a campaign pressuring the Biden administration to deliver all the remaining weapons under presidential drawdown authority before Biden leaves office. In September, we, and by we, I mean all of us, successfully saved $6 billion in authority from expiring. As I said earlier, President Biden notified the Congress of the intent to use the remaining PDA authority, and later on September 26, he made a commitment to deliver all the remaining weapons under PDA before he leaves office. As of now, there are about 3 weeks left until then, and 7.5 billion worth of weapons to transfer. President Biden is obviously behind on his promise. $7.5 billion worth of weapons that Ukraine desperately needs today to stop Russian advance, to enable Ukraine defenders do their insanely difficult job, to stop the killing of civilians. All of that equipment is still in American warehouses collecting dust. You can participate in our campaign by visiting campaign.protectukrainenow.org. More than 26,000 letters have already been delivered since the start of this campaign, and we ask you to add your voice too. We cover this campaign in more detail in our previous videos, so please take a look. Also, if you find this video important, please share it with your friends and family. Again, guys, advocacy is a numbers game. We appreciate your participation. Thank you for watching, and until the next time.